Hey friends, in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to add color to your ink sketches. We're going to mix ink pens with brush pens or alcohol markers, whatever you have available to you, and we're going to create this scene right here. So this is a good tutorial if you're interested in drawing landscapes or getting into urban sketching. Before we start, I just want to remind you guys that my waitlist for my new ink drawing program is open. It's going to be very focused on drawing nature. It seems to be your favorite topic, and it's also kind of my favorite topic as well. So if this sounds like your thing, feel free to sign up in the link in the description. Now let's get started with the sketch. I am going to be using a fountain pen today just because it's new and I really wanted to test it out, but by any means you need to have such a fancy pen. You could just use a fine liner or an ink pen or something that you have available to you. This is the Lamy Safari Extra Fine Fountain Pen. I actually did a review of this pen on a previous video. I'm going to link it somewhere in the screen if you're interested. And for the paper, I'm just using a sketchbook. This sketchbook, the paper is quite thick, so I think it's going to hold the ink and the alcohol marker pretty well, but I'm definitely going to leave a piece of paper underneath the page so that the ink doesn't blend to other pages. And today I'm going to be going straight to sketching with the pen, which is really not my favorite way to draw. If you've seen my previous videos, I love sketching with the pencil first. I feel much more confident. I like drawing again and again and kind of like playing with the shapes and really getting my proportions right. But I figured I would challenge myself a little bit. So if you are like me and you really prefer drawing with a pencil, I challenge you to just use the pen and forget the pencil for today. So my tip for you when you're sketching, how do you start, right? What is the first line that you're going to put on paper? That was my first question here when I was just starting out. You're going to start with the most prominent angles and the most prominent shapes. So you're kind of following a similar train of thought from large to small. But of course, in this case, you're not just drawing, like, let's say you have this like wall to the left and then another wall to the right? There's like all these buildings and we have this street leading towards this like middle vanishing point. I can't just draw a trapezoid on one side and then another trapezoid on the other side, because then there's all these details that would cross over the lines. So you're going to pick a line that's really prominent. So maybe it's a wall that's very clearly positioned. You're going to observe how far is this line from one side of the page and how far is it from the other side of the page. And you're going to try to replicate that. You're going to look for angles. You're going to look for straight lines or curved lines that are really clearly defined. So you're going to start with those. And as you move along, you're going to get a little bit more clarity on, oh, actually, this should be a little bit more to the right. This should have been a little bit more to the left. And that's fine. You're going to adapt and you're going to do your best to make things fit on the page. One thing to keep in mind in terms of style, that's something that over time you'll be able to kind of pick and choose whatever you prefer. And there's nothing wrong with either or, is how stylized you want your final result to be. So if you want your final results to really look like a sketch and really look like a drawing, which sometimes that's really, really cool, you're going to want a bit of a thicker line, right? You can sketch with a different thickness of a pen. If you're working with realism and you're trying to get closer to real life and you want to create more realistic results, if you look outside, if you look around you in real life, you don't really see the outlines of things very much. That's honestly one of the most common mistakes I see in my students, is leaving the outline of objects too clear, right? That is true for pen, for pencil, for colored pencil, for acrylics. Like if you leave your outline visible and too thick, it's going to look like a drawing, right? It's going to look like an illustration, which again, nothing wrong with that. It is an illustration, so it could look like an illustration, but you want to do that intentionally, right? You want that to be your style and not an accident. You don't want to be trying to get to realism and create a realistic effect and then end up with it looking like too much of an illustration. It will, like, that's just part of the process, right? We're learning, we're improving. And that's the point of practicing art and expressing ourselves through art. So there's nothing wrong with the process of getting there. I just want to point out that the outline is super important if you want to get to a more realistic result. Now, when you're ready, you can start coloring it. And the nice thing about working with just a pen is that you don't have to erase the pencil. It's kind of a pretty niche process in that sense. And I guess this can kind of like a coloring book situation, so it can be pretty satisfying. I guess it really depends on the type of subject that you're drawing. I feel like with urban scenes, it's pretty nice because there's not that much blending that we need to do. We basically need to put the colors on paper and maybe create some textures. We can play with lights and shadows and that kind of stuff. So that's what we're going to try to create here. We're going to try to replicate a similar effect that we see in the reference in our illustration. And for the coloring, I'm going to be using alcohol markers. I have a mix of Copics and Who markers here. Not sponsored. If any of these brands want to sponsor me, I would love that, of course. But these are just the ones I have. So I'm not going to lie, Copics are a lot more expensive than Who's, but I'm not going to lie, guys. I feel like they're pretty similar in terms of quality. All Who markers are pretty great. I have nothing to complain about them, and their price is excellent. So great starting markers if you want to start out with alcohol markers. And over time, if you really get into it, you can invest in Copics, but I wouldn't jump straight away into Copics by any means. So that's my tips on materials. I'm also going to be using some watercolor brush pens that I have here. The brush tips on those are sometimes a little bit thinner. So they're really great with like details, and I find that they fade less. So when you put the alcohol marker ink on paper, you're going to see that it kind of fades over time, like as it dries. It fades pretty quickly. You're going to notice it. And with the watercolor brush pens, it doesn't fade as much. So if you're looking for more of an intense and a more vibrant tone, the watercolor brush pens are actually pretty great. But the downside of that is that they don't layer. They don't blend with each other very much, right? Because with the alcohol markers, when you put different tones together, they're going to blend with each other. They kind of create a different tone. And so this is why alcohol markers are pretty nice to work with, because you can layer different tones, you can create different textures. And as the ink dries on top of the first layer, and then you add another layer and then another layer, you're going to get like a third result from that. It's almost like a scientific thing. Like the colors just blend with each other to create a new color, right? With watercolor brushes, I think it's because they dry pretty quickly. They don't have that blending capacity. So you're going to get pretty much what you get once you put the brush stroke on paper, right? You can add another layer of another color on top, and it's going to look like one color on top of each other and not a new color. I hope this makes sense. I'm just like literally just nerding out over my observations on coloring with different brush pens. I hope this is interesting. But anyway, moving on. How do we color? Where do we start? What do we do first? Okay, so my suggestion for you guys is to always move from large to small. This is kind of like my advice with everything art related when we are trying to learn new subjects and we're using a reference. If you start from the details, you're going to get all the proportions wrong. And that applies to color as well. So my suggestion for you, if you're trying to figure out what are the main colors here, what are the colors that I should pick, I'm going to suggest that you squint your eyes, look at your reference, and see what are the main colors that pop out to you. So in my reference here, I get like this orange, sort of pinkish, like a pinkish red that's kind of like a burned pinkish red to the right, and then more of like orange yellows to the left, and more of like a beige on the street, and then a blue-ish thing on the sky, and the green from the plants really pop out as well. But it's not like a super bright green, it's more of like a burned tone of green. So once you realize more or less what are the main colors that you have on your reference, you can get a little side paper and kind of test out, right? You're going to notice with alcohol markers, like you can have a color on the lid of your pen, and when you use the pen, it's completely different. Like, I don't know what these people are thinking when they're creating these pens. Like, they do not match. Sometimes they do match, but they usually don't match the color on the lid. So my suggestion for you, before you put the ink on paper on your drawing, test it out on a piece of paper. Sometimes you can get two pens that the lid is showing a super similar tone of pink, and one is going to be super vibrant and vivid, and the other one's going to be super almost like a light peachy tone. So to make sure you don't ruin your drawing and you get really the tones that you want, test it out on a piece of paper and select your colors ahead of time. Also, don't suggest that you have, like if you have a collection of, 50 markers, you're not going to have them all available to you. Pick, let's say 10 markers and stick with those 10. That's how you create a more cohesive, harmonic composition. The other tip on choosing colors is picking colors that are the same color but different tones. So let's say here to the left I have this orange wall type of thing. So you're gonna make sure to pick maybe 3 tones of orange, right? A little lighter one, a middle tone, and then a darker, more vibrant or muted type of orange. Because that's how we're gonna play with lights and shadows, right? It's not like colored pencils or with ink when you're like mixing paint that you just add a darker tone to it. You're not going to add a darker tone to it. You're going to try to find a tone that's already in that darker tone, if that makes sense. So it's nice to have 3 tones of all of the main colors that you need for your drawing. So I have selected here about 3 to 4 tones of orange, 3 to 4 tones of pink, some browns, some grays, some neutral beiges that are good for blending, and they're not gonna make it look like a color, but they're gonna help tie everything together, and some blues for the sky, and then maybe 2 or 3 tones of green for the plants. When you're coloring larger areas, you can also use the chiseled part of your marker. As you can see, there is a side of the marker that has a brush tip and the other side has a chiseled tip. And the chiseled tip is going to be easier to cover a larger area. That said, it does release some like blotches of ink and sometimes it marks the paper a little bit. So maybe test it out on a piece of paper before coloring your drawing. You're also going to start coloring from the lighter tones, right? You're going to place your base colors first, and then you're gonna layer it up with darker tones. As you get more confident and you feel a little bit more warmed up, you understand how the pen is reacting to the paper and the paper is reacting to the pen. Then you can add some darker colors, and like, let's say I have, for example, the windows and the doors. In those cases, I'm actually needing like a darker brown. As you can see here, I'm leaving that for after adding the colorful walls. And again, the nice thing about these markers is that they layer really beautifully. You really don't have to be super neat. The imperfections are super nice. You can really, play around and try different layers, right? With the same tone, with a different tone. If you do layer 2 colors that are too far apart together, they're not gonna blend very well. But if you layer, let's say you have an orange and you want the orange to be a little bit more vibrant and you want it to be a little bit colder, maybe you can add a little yellow or maybe like a light green to move that tone to a different tone. You can't do that with like super far apart, but if they're just close enough and you're starting with a darker one and then you're going with a lighter one that's like a slightly different tone and you bring that closer to that tone, it's so nice. Try it out and let me know in the comments if you test it. This is something I'm doing a lot here. I don't know if you guys can see very well. This is something I'm doing a lot here on the walls and on the streets. Especially on the street, you can see there's a lot of marks on the street. There's different blotches of concrete, there's maybe some dirt and that kind of stuff. So you kind of want to create those textures, right? It creates a little bit of more interest to your drawing. So what you can do is, again, layer different tones, right? So I have a few different grays and a few different, I wouldn't say it's like a light grayish, brownish tone color situation. I have a few of those, and some of them are more like a greenish gray and one is more of a bluish gray, and you can kind of like play around with it and just layer them, see which ones fade out more, see which ones stay a little bit more vibrant. And over time, like let's say you go out, have a coffee and come back, as your ink dries more, it will react, like the colors are going to be slightly different, right? If you're looking at your colors as you're coloring them, you're going to have an effect that 5 minutes later is going to be different. So make sure you take your time, just observe how the ink's reacting with each other and just have fun with it. I do feel like this is kind of a coloring book situation, so it can be pretty relaxing. But moving on, as you are coloring this, you are going to want to start adding some detail. Maybe in your reference, there's a lamp, there's, like a doorknob or some sort of texture on a door or something like that, right? As you move along with the drawing and as you have the larger areas colored with the base colors, you can start adding those details. If you're feeling a little bit insecure, you're not really sure, I'm not sure what's the tone, what's the color, just start with like a little bit of a darker color than the one you have in your base color, just to mark the position of whatever detail that you're trying to create. And then you can come in with a little bit of a darker color to finish it up. One thing that I noticed as I was doing this drawing is that I kept drawing, coloring, and it still felt a little bit flat. And if you're feeling like that with your drawing, know that this is totally normal. It's hard sometimes to replicate things from your reference. So here's what you should be looking for when you're observing your reference. The first thing is you want to observe the contrast areas. If you're feeling like your drawing is looking flat, if you feel like, oh my God, I already colored basically everything and it's still looking a little bit flat, it's not looking like my reference, I want you to pay attention to the contrast areas. So what are the areas where there's contrast between a light and a shadow, or a light item and a dark item. It doesn't necessarily means like a light and shadow situation, like light from the sun. It could be a door that's really dark and then a wall that's really light in color. What are these contrast areas? Do you need to increase that contrast in your drawing? That's something to ask yourself, right? Just look at your reference, observe where do you see the biggest contrast points, and then look at your drawing and see, is the contrast comparable? Should this door be darker? Did I make the wall too dark? Can't imagine we can't really make things lighter when you're coloring with these materials, but you can make the dark a little bit darker. So that's why we start from light to shadow. We start with the base colors, the lighter tones, and then we move to the dark so that we don't run the risk of creating a too dark of a result. The other thing to observe in this case now, it is lights and shadows. So light coming from the sun, from a light bulb, something, and a shadow. What are the places that are not receiving light? This is what makes your drawing really pop, and it really highlights specific areas. It really makes your drawing more captivating. This is really what's going to make your drawing look less flat and more realistic, even more interesting, arguably. I don't know. We could start a discussion on this, but anyway. So you're going to look for the light source. Where is the light source? In my case here, it's daytime. The sun is here somewhere. So if the sun is hitting this element, where would I guess the sun is from my reference? And how are you going to find this out, right? You're going to observe the shadows. So if there's a shadow on a wall from this tree or this plant here, for example, if the shadow is positioned like this, where is the light source, right? So you're going to ask yourself, where is the light source? Where is it coming from? And then you're going to observe your drawing. Do I have all the shadows I need in place? Is there anything that doesn't have a shadow that should have a shadow? Is there any spot in my drawing that shouldn't be receiving light from this light source because there's something else covering it, right? You're going to actually observe the environment of your reference and make this judgment call. To me, this is one of the most satisfying parts because it really makes your drawing pop. It really makes, the elements feel more 3D. It creates more depth. You create more of like this sensation of being in that space. In this case, it's a space because it's a physical space. And the last thing that I would observe to make sure that the colors are matching my reference is the saturation or the vibrancy of the colors. As I told you before, the alcohol markers tend to really fade over time. I mean, it's not like they're gonna fade, massively in 10 days. That's like after 5 minutes, 10 minutes, you're gonna see what it's gonna look like. It's gonna stay like that. But you might want to add new layers as you go. You might observe that your drawing is fading slightly. You added the color, it looked right, and then suddenly it's like a little bit faded, right? You might want to add another layer. Another tip that I have for you, again, I kind of told you about adding similar, like close enough tone to bring that color to that different tone. And you can do that to increase saturation. So let's say I have this orange wall here, again, using the orange wall as an example, because that's, I guess, the most saturated thing in my view, in my perception. So this orange wall here, and then I'm looking at my drawing and it's looking, let's say that I'm feeling like it's a little flat. It's a little bit like not matching the same tone of orange, right? If I don't have that orange available to me, or the orange is like too vibrant, the one that I have available to me, what you can do is try to create this similar saturation or vibrancy effect. So you're going to pick a different marker from a similar tone that's a little bit more vibrant. Could be a yellow, could be, I guess in this case, it should be like yellow, or maybe like more of a pink, but you want to increase the level of vibrancy of that tone to create a similar effect, right? So you're going to add a new layer of this lighter, more vibrant, similar enough color to your element. Anyway, I hope this makes sense, guys. Feel free to ask questions in the comments. Now, to finish it up, you're gonna add all the details. I loved adding these little plants all around this drawing. I think it gave a lot of, kind of like tied everything together. And it was really nice to use 2 tones of green for this one. Again, if I used only 1 tone of green, it would look super flat. So you really want to have 2, even 3 tones of each of your colors to actually create the effect that you want. And this is what I have for today, guys. If you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. I know this is lame, everyone says that, but it really actually really helps my channel and it helps me create more stuff for you guys. And also let me know in the comments what you would like to see next in my future videos. And last thing, if you enjoyed this tutorial and you thought this was helpful, I think you're really gonna like this one that that I have on the screen right now. I hope you enjoy it, and I'll see you next time. Bye!